Welcome back to the Berg Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With me today is Ford.
Hey, how's it going?
And Dan.
Hey, everybody.
And we haven't had the chance to do this in a little while, so we don't have a topic. We're just checking in. So
We're starting without rails to begin with.
yeah, usually we're worried about getting off the rails, but today there are no rails to speak of.
Yeah, I'm a little lost with what I'm supposed to do because normally my job is to take us off the rails. So without any rails, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here.
It's usually my job to try and pull us back, keep us on track, and all I really know when we start these things is the intro and maybe some semblance of a direction. So,
Well, speaking of an intro, last week's podcast with Justin doing the acoustics was very cool. That was a nice little twist on everything.
that was cool. It was an editing challenge that we did not foresee, and Dan did kind of spring it on me. So,
You're welcome.
but it turned out really good. I thought. I think that it's maybe I said this to Justin. I think we might need to do like a talent version of these where, as we bring people in, kind of give them a heads up like, hey, do you have any hidden talents or anything you want to show off and see where it goes?
Yeah, I think a lot of people's talents that might not work on the radio. They're probably more a little
Yeah,
challenging. If they're doing a
well,
mime thing, it's not going to work on the radio very well.
Well, I'll just describe it. So as they mime, I'll be like, okay, and now he's doing hand signals. Oh, I can't say that one.
We can be off the rails here. So that would actually work really well for Brian because one of my favorite things that Brian does, not related to work, is when we have like a golf outing that we go to do or somewhere, if they give us one of the books that tells you what the hold be like, Brian could be like the best golf announcer. I mean, I don't watch golf.
Yeah.
But he could be a really good announcer just going over, I don't know.
Well,
Hit it straight down the center for 242
It's
yards.
beautiful.
Well,
vista.
I don't know if I'd be a good announcer
Yeah.
because I'd have to know the rules of golf.
Oh,
and
yeah, that is.
usually I'm just making it up. I just hope the ball is fine somewhere I can find it. But
All right, how about just that if you had it
but
playing in
yeah,
the
there's
carts,
like
that it
a-
just described the hole to you as you
Mhm.
drove up?
that's it. So there's if there were someone standing at each hole narrating it, or, describing that would be me. I could do that. Yeah.
Ironically, the Justin thing, when I got up to see Gary and the guys up at Brad's, and they had just listened to Justin's podcast, and so they said, "Hey, we just listened to the podcast." I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And so they said the intro threw us though because they weren't even sure they were on the right podcast. Like they thought maybe they had made a
Yeah.
mistake because
Yeah.
the trigger is the podcast intro
The
is
music,
the intro,
yeah.
it's the music.
Well, and also Justin does another hidden talent I learned the other week. He can hold for the longest amount of time. There was a competition. He can hold a mug of liquid out and not drop it.
Oh, is this like an Oktoberfest type of competition?
It is, and he even got a
Yeah,
trophy for it. He
yeah.
said the trophy wasn't quite appropriate, so he didn't. But there's pictures somewhere. I haven't seen them,
Okay.
but he had a competition there where he had to hold the mug and not drop it. So
Uh-huh. Yeah.
another hidden talent that we didn't even find out about.
Do you know
Jeez,
how
this guy.
long he held this mug?
I am unclear. I just heard he was the victor.
All right,
Yeah.
because I feel like I would lose just because I couldn't sit still. I would be the guy to let go of the car just because I can't stand here.
Well, Justin does have that prosthetic arm in his favor, so he just locks it in place. I'm joking.
that
Justin
is
does not have
another thing that you didn't know about. That was the one thing that was off limit.
Oh, yeah. His
But it was-
prosthetic arm. So, yeah.
It was only off limit while Justin was on the podcast.
Right.
So
So they didn't know in the competition. Yeah, he was keeping it a secret.
He's free and clear. He's not here to defend himself. So
Justin does not have a prosthetic arm. So just
That we know of.
That we know of. So he always wears long sleeves.
he does wear a lot of long
Yeah.
sleeves.
But no, it was really fun to get back and get another teammate's perspective. Been here a long time, and get to know him a little bit more. Just because usually we're in the middle doing things and we just don't get that time to chat. So it was really cool to hear that when I was listening to it on the truck the other day.
Yeah, it was cool. The other thing that happened this week that I thought was really neat was the trunk or treat. Did you guys see the pictures from trunk or treat?
The fun committee or whoever did that did a wonderful job. The
Yeah.
picture, I mean, whatever, the printers are still, I think, steaming downstairs from what they had to do to make that work, but
Yeah.
they did a really good job on that.
Yeah, Fun Committee knocked it out of the park. I'll tell you what, Aubrey made those little monsters or whatever we want to call them to sort of decorate the scene there. So Tracy does a lot of the legwork, organizing and stuff like that. And I know JD helped him out by getting some machines there.
See, JD again, right? He wants
Yeah,
to be like
yeah.
Mr. Grumpy, him and Ben. They want to be
I
like,
know.
oh, they don't want to participate.
Yeah,
Or just going
yeah.
to growl at people. And then you get them in front of people, and all of a sudden it's like a song and dance.
Yeah.
Well, that, and I heard there's a gauntlet throw down. JD says he wants to be part of some parade next year
Yeah,
with the
JD
truck
wants to be in
too.
a
So I mean, he
parade.
put it out there. So
Wait, there's a parade?
Yeah, there's a parade that JD wants to be a part of. I was picturing it. You got to have a float of some sort. Maybe Justin could play a musical instrument. Maybe there's other Berg team members who can play instruments. You could have like the Berg family band with a piece of equipment rolling through this parade with JD driving.
Yeah, it could be. All being pulled by a wheel loader or something.
No,
so,
no, they have to shine up the truck really nice. I don't know how Joe's going to feel about JD driving his truck though.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Might be a dump truck. I don't know. Maybe it's a 450 or maybe it's a pickup truck. I don't know. But as somebody, he
JD
threw it out there. I heard through the grapevine he wants to do
He's
this.
got a
So
CDL. He could drive a track.
He can drive anything he wants.
Whatever he wants. So.
speaking of a driver,
Yeah.
he got a little time off and
Yeah.
he'll be back in town now.
We got another member of the Berg family joined the married ranks, right? Yeah, Joe and Shannon got married 2 weeks ago, I think. He was out on his honeymoon, last week, so 2 weeks ago.
What's the funniest thing about Joe getting married?
Oh my gosh, this is hilarious. Yeah.
Ford, do you know this?
I do not.
He doesn't know. All
Yeah. So Joe didn't actually take PTO for his wedding or his honeymoon. Shannon actually had to call in and say, "Hey, you guys know Joe's gonna be on his honeymoon, right?" And nobody had any clue that Joe had requested off. Joe actually, I think Joe was planning on. They got married on a Friday. I think Joe was planning on coming back to work after the wedding.
Well, it was Friday afternoon. I think Joe was just going to work. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
if he comes in early, Joe could probably get in a full day and then get over to the wedding real quick.
I mean, the man is committed, and that is a testament to him for many years. I mean, he's the longest term employee, but he definitely needed to take some time off for this particular event. It's a big.
He doesn't understand how PTO works. He doesn't use it. He doesn't like to use it. He likes working. Guy just comes to work and does his job. Yeah. And it's hard to fault him for that. I mean, it's admirable for sure. But
yeah, I feel like Joe could be like the perfect, like the old teachers that they just carried their PTO for 30 years. And then at the end of it, they had 3 years worth of PTO. And school districts didn't like that because they got paid out at their, rates. So it had to be changed. But Joe would just carry as much as you would let him carry.
Well, yeah, accountants don't like it either because of the accruing of all of that PTO, like the journal entries involved and making sure that the PTO hits the right fiscal year.
This is quite a podcast. We talked about Joe getting married and not taking PTO.
Yeah.
Justin, with his instruments and his prosthetic arm.
Yeah.
JD, who wants to be in parades now.
Well, and also he just made the best transition. He started talking about accounting.
Right back into accounting.
The part about the accounting is that we made a transition into our systems internally.
Yes.
And the team has been.
I don't think we're talking about that publicly yet.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Well, people in the field are going to start seeing some changes in how things are being done because of this.
Yeah.
And so kind of giving them a heads up on that, we're working through all the bugs of a transition. And it's been ongoing for 3 or 4 months now at this point, give or take.
Yeah. So,
behind the scenes.
Yeah. So behind the scenes, yep. We've been working on the transition since probably June-ish. And I have to give my team credit. They do a lot of the heavy lifting, a lot of the legwork. Decker, Kelly, Kelsey, they've been doing a ton. We are transitioning accounting software, and we did go live, if you want to call it that, on October 1st, even though we're still working out the kinks and making some of the stuff tie back to the historical information, etc. But yeah, it's actually gone really well.
It felt completely out of character for Brian when I realized he was going to go live in this way. We can get a little bit technical with it. A lot of times when companies make these kind of transitions, they'll sort of run a ghost system where they have their main system up and running, and then they bring the new one in behind it and make sure that it's working. And then they pull the old one, the original system off, and then the old system is behind it.
Yeah.
And
they just pulled the Band-Aid off on this one.
Decker told me, he was like, no, we're just going to go live. And I was like, Brian's just going to go live? He's just going to throw the switch and go? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, this doesn't sound like Brian, but all right.
All right, so
that sounds more like me, where I'd say like, Brian, we're changing.
In full transparency, it's like a soft live. So like there's some backup here. There's a little bit of there was a lot of legwork done to get it to a spot where we went live, which did include some shadow filing and stuff like that. But yeah.
But I think on the serious piece to this though is that as we've become a larger team and doing larger things, we had to transition to something that could handle what we're doing now. And part of that is putting in procedures and policies and processes that we didn't have in the past. POs, which are coming out and, really trying to be able to control things so that we have a better flow And that's one of the main reasons for doing this. You know, our accounting company that we hire from the outside have been telling us to do it for years, and we've been reticent to do it just because of
Sure. Yeah. We're
change
comfortable.
sucks.
Right? We're comfortable.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And isn't that funny? Ford says change sucks, but like, we talk about it all the time. Ford and I are really good with change as long as it's things we want to change.
Right. Yeah.
That's what people don't realize is when you don't want to change something, it doesn't matter if you're good with change or not.
That's when it's uncomfortable. That's when you
it's
resist
just
it.
uncomfortable. And that was really part of the discussion with this whole accounting software. Like transparently, like truth be told, was Ford is very comfortable with our old accounting software. And so changing it meant, it would be something he was not comfortable with. And so he'd have to learn it, So that was one of the things we had to work through the kinks to see, was there value and was there reason? But at the end of the day, just with the size we've become and with the potential we have, because we have a team that we could be a little bit bigger if we wanted to. We could certainly, if we could find the people, we could add them. But we needed to be in a little bit of a better spot, from a financial, not so much reporting standpoint, because that makes it feel like it's an accounting issue. It's not. It's always been about job costing. It's always been about getting the data from the field back into the accounting software to really tie to something. And that's where, it even made me a little uneasy, because it's like, okay, we've always been able to just look at QuickBooks or look at our accounting and Brian say, like, here's where we are. And I could sort of look at Heavy Job and say, okay, if that looks like that, then I can create some correlation that's not right, but it's close. But the idea that we're going to be running on one system made me a little uneasy, because it really requires the field to deliver to us the information we need in a timely fashion and correctly, or else it'll disrupt everything. So it's a big jump that the field's going to feel a little bit the impact of as we try and get this way. But at the end of the day, and I think we discussed this before, it's about knowing our costs. It's about knowing our production rates. It's about knowing all these things, so that when you hit a slowdown or an issue or, a shortage, where you are. If you really want a job, how you can bid it. You know what I mean? That's what this is about.
Yeah. So a couple things there. And we've seen this in a lot of ways. So as we've gotten older, so to speak, as a company, we couldn't act like little kids anymore, right? There had to be a few more rules, a little more formality in what we do. Some of it's internal because it has
to. Does that mean no zip lines anymore? Because I heard that back in the day, zip lines happened.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we set the zip line up. We just happened to utilize an available zip line. And so there's a difference, right? Yeah. So
who wouldn't use an available zip line?
I know, that's fair. Yeah.
Let's call an ace an ace.
I know. I just every time I hear about stories like that, it reminds me of my Sky Zone incident, and it's like PTSD or something.
I thought we don't talk about that.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I'm trying.
He brought it up.
This is bringing out a lot. You know what I mean? There's another. You can add that to the list. Brian and Sky Zone. We won't get into it.
Yeah. But anyways,
if you see Brian and you want to talk to him, feel free to ask Brian.
I'll be happy to tell you about it.
He'll be unhappy to talk to you about it.
No, it doesn't bother me. Yeah. But the formality piece is important in some of the stuff that we do, and it is a pain point, right? Anytime you've got to add policy or add rules, it makes things feel more challenging or feel like more work, because that's the change that we're generally not real excited about. But the accounting software has been a little bit of a formality for us. It has been sort of a long time coming. And I'm grateful for my team. They're doing an awesome job. So yeah, Decker's really helped take some of the load off of me. Dylan Reese has done a fantastic job with trying to correlate some of those cost code, job costing stuff between our project management side, et cetera. But yeah, it's been good.
I think that's one thing when I really think about some of the long-term team members, of how much change they've had to endure through the time. Because, we always talk about, when a new person comes onto a team, in any team, and whatever the norms are at that point, they just assume that those norms have been there since day one, and those norms have not transitioned or matured over time. And the reality is that is not how it is. I still remember when I think we had 4 or 5 team members, and we had to transition from not wearing shorts to wearing pants, and that was a big issue for people.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, I think one guy actually quit over it because he just wanted to keep wearing shorts. And at
going
that point,
corporate.
Yeah, exactly. We're going corporate. We were wearing pants, whatever, long pants instead of shorts. And the transitions that have happened over time. If you look back and what things are doing, it's all just to make the team more solid and things like that. But every time something happens, it's like, I remember when HCSS got brought in, there's all different things that were added over time. And each time, initially there's a little bit of a challenge, but once everything gets working, it actually makes it move smoother. It's just that, getting over that wave is where there's always that little bit of a adjustment period, and people are just, you have to deal with it as it comes, because we all feel them in different ways.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. I agree.
Yeah. And that's something we're going to continue to work through. Like Ford said, as there's people that join the team, and they join the team at a certain spot. And then as the team changes and grows, we may not be the right fit. We might be. And we've seen that with people over time. We're just, there's no ill will. They were looking for a certain thing, and we outgrew that thing, or we don't do that thing. It's something we struggle with right now as we continue to do snow. Honestly, as the guys have come in and they did snow, and some of them are, they've been doing it a long time. They don't want to do as much snow. And then there's other guys that are like, no, a company your size really, like, we don't do snow that way. And so people coming in have a different perception of how we should operate. So that's one of the places we haven't changed as much until you really step back and look at it and say, you go back to the Merck days, what I mean? When we would work 36 plus hours straight, what I mean? Like, we don't do that anymore.
Right.
So that's a change that, most people are happy about.
Right.
But
some of that structure and formality has been positive.
But it's because of that structure and formality that we realized we just can't. I had a call this morning with Shay and Brad, Stetson, John, and Chris, talking about how we set up Longwood for snow, so that it's not just a guess, because most of our jobs don't need to manage snow on the job. The job just doesn't run. Longwood, that's not the case. So, and we haven't even really talked about it, but the end result of the conversation was, I think we're going to treat Longwood as if it's its own snow site. And then, Shay will manage the snow at Longwood, so that A, they know they have a plan and a point of contact, and B, then we don't try and allocate Shay or some of his people in other places. And we think we can manage it that way, and allocate a couple pieces of equipment, and say, even though that's their regular equipment, it is also their snow equipment, so you can't pull it. So that is much more formal than it would have been before. Before, we were just, we made a joke about it I heard a podcast not long ago about Frankie Trago would just go pick up the equipment.
Right. Yep.
And that's one of the places he would go, is to Longwood.
Actually, I heard, like you said, repo it.
He did. Well,
yeah, I was going to say,
to ourselves.
I remember this conversation because it was you.
Yeah. And we said we repoed it.
Yeah.
But, it's one of those things we're trying to plan and be a little more formal, because that's where we are now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have Becca there literally spending the time now. I mean, in the old days, we'd get a contract for snow. I mean, even up to last year, we got a contract for snow in December something. And this year, that's not how it has to be, because we have the process. Becca's spending time making sure the pieces are in the right places. We put stickers on. The smallest things is putting stickers on pieces so they hopefully show up to the right spot, versus before, the first storm, all of a sudden we're taking trailers out to remove stuff because it might have gotten dropped off at the wrong job site, stuff like that. So, that's all part of the maturity and the maturation of a process. It just gets more on the front end instead of figuring it out on the back end.
And I know, it can drive our guys a little crazy at times, but like, we just got done with our snow safety training, right? When's the last time we dedicated 3 days, pulled every guy out of the field to go through safety training in regards to snow specifically? I mean, we do other safety training, et cetera, but that's just another maybe slight tweak on how we've done things in the past. A little added formality, making sure our folks are prepared for the conditions, et cetera.
Well, we were able to, that's another thing we're able to do, is actually do it in a different format than we had in the past, because we're able to communicate with the client and create a benefit for both sides. And in the past, we had to do things a lot differently. And now we're able to, with having Blair here and with being able to communicate with them and create a situation that we're able to do it here at this, at the offices. We're able to do it on 3 different times and things like that. We're trying to make it as painless as a possible process, but it still has to be done, because that's the way you access the projects.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And what happened funny with Snowford was equipment's getting delivered, everything's getting set up, and Brad's working with Becca to try and make sure everything's where it's going. And the shop, I really believe, has done a good job this year of trying to get things ready. You don't know until it really runs. And we talk about that. And Brad called me and he said, I drove down and I saw the salt was a little bit out of the bin at UP, and 120 sitting there. So he said, so I get in it, I get a big scoop of salt and go to put it up. He said, just as I lift, hydraulic hose blows. So.
But You're glad you found out
But
in
we found
October.
out now. And the funny part is I was prepared to defend the shop
Mm.
and say like, Brad, something always breaks. And I was like, well, I mean, they did a good job. And he's like, no. He said, the hose was fine. It was just unlucky, just something nobody would have caught. And I said, but in my head, it triggered like, that's what happens every time. Like you think
Right.
you're ready.
We think you're prepared.
And then, so that's where really this formality came from, was and that happens a lot of times. Formality comes from a pain point. You find something that causes pain and is not good for you. And you say, like, okay, we need to find a way to not end up in this spot again, or at least mitigate how often I end up in the spot.
We talk about that a lot, right? Triggering events, events trigger change.
Well, that's, I think, real quick, just with equipment is, a lot of the equipment that is used for snow work doesn't get used year round. And so that's part of what the shop has been doing to really try and go through everything, because it's been sitting for 6 to 8 months, and trying to get it, because, until you need it, you don't need it. And things only break when you're using them. They don't break when they're sitting on the in the yard somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. Well, they might be breaking while they're sitting in the yard,
Rusting.
but you just don't know it until you try and use it again. Yeah. Yeah. Why does that always happen? That happened to me this weekend. I tried to start my lawnmower and it wouldn't start.
It was protesting. It was too cold. It didn't want to work any longer this year.
I know. I was like, what the heck? I used this thing a week ago. Something happens in that shed.
Did you get it started?
I got it started. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I would have probably just given up. But like, that's it's done for the year. We're not mowing anymore.
Well, it wasn't. I was using it for my leaves actually. So, and I've got this. I don't like to pick up leaves. I just hate it. And I've got trees, and I really like having trees, but I just mow my leaves. So, blow them all out into the yard, mow over them until they're not distinguishable from the rest of the grass. So
Environmentally friendly, saving those leaves for mulching.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's something to that. I think it's got to be healthy for the grass, right? There's something.
It is. So I got a funny leaf story. So I got home last week one day. I don't remember what day it was, and the girls, they have every rake they can find out, and they're trying to rake the leaves into a pile at the bottom of their giant tree swing, which is, I'm thinking this is just good parenting and genetics. This
is a good setup.
This is a good setup. And so they're raking the leaves, and they're like, "Can you help?" And so I went and get the blower. And then they wanted to use the blower, but I blew the pile together first myself, because I knew that this would turn into some sort of like a blower fight, or so
kind of like adding a hose to any situation.
Yeah. So I raked I blow the leaves all together. They're raking. It's a giant pile, and they're jumping off their swing into the leaves and flying into the leaves, and nobody's getting injured. But there's no neighbors there. There's no other kids, so I feel safe about this. So the girls come in and tell Erin, and Erin's like, "You know what you think you should do? You should put all the leaves in front of your zip line, and then make a huge leaf pile and take the zip line and just blow straight through the leaf pile." And I looked at her and I was like, see, this is how we ended up married, because you are like this, except when you didn't know that I had already set up the tree swing. Like they had the tree swing set up. So she didn't know that. So then she advised something that she thought was mildly safe. And in her defense, the zip line is safer than the tree swing. She probably picked the safer of it, because the zip line, you're just going to ride it through.
You just go through. You're not jumping off.
You're not jumping off the swing.
Right.
So it's probably the safety point she was touching on, but I did think it was funny. She thought, use the zip line.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I will commend you. That story somehow ties to the beginning of the podcast with zip lines again. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Holy
so if
smokes.
Justin would like to come over and ride a zip line, he can do it off
At your
hours at my
house.
house. We can put some leaves.
Set up
A
the
non-work
leaves.
event.
Yeah.
And here we'll go, and we'll close out and see if Brian can finish it up on this. I just thought about it. Do you remember, Ford, when Rob Grafe's kids used to post the ridiculous videos back in the day?
Oh, they were like that TV show we won't mention, but locally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they did one. Do you remember the one when they drove his truck, and we saw the truck, and the truck had been at snow earlier in the week, and then they tried to jump and fly through a sheet of plywood? Do you remember that?
No, that's not one that I remember.
Yeah. They rode on the roof of the truck, and then the kid jumped off with it going like 20 miles an hour and just tried to fly right through a sheet of plywood.
It sounds like something you could find on a YouTube channel.
They had a YouTube channel.
Okay.
I'm not going to broadcast it for them, though. They would probably appreciate it if I said it. And
Is
I
it
do
still
know what
active?
It is still
Okay.
active.
So
Rob's son Ben has turned it into an entire business now. He has Ben Gravy is Ben Grafe. So those surfboards, anytime you see a surfboard that has a pineapple with sunglasses on it on the bottom, that's Ben Grafe, Ben Gravy. And but he was the one. And if you watch his videos at the start of when he explains how he got started, it was because he had time sitting from an injury where he broke some bones.
Oh, so
That was the injury. That's how the injury happened.
the plywood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
the
it's because you
the
don't.
plywood,
Yeah, it's because as it turns
yeah.
out, you can't get into a car accident as a human without a car.
Well,
And-
yeah.
well, you can.
Yeah.
You break bones.
You just right.
So I don't know how you wrap that back up, Brian, but that's why you got
to become a YouTube star.
It's worked for him.
I don't know how to wrap that up, but it does feel like a good place to finish.
Yeah.
So, all right, folks, thanks for joining us. We hope you didn't get anything out of this, but we hope you join us again for another podcast. Thanks again.